Pictures up.
Last looks. Rolling.
And action.
Welcome to the Last Looks podcast, Marva.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. It's we've been trying to schedule it, and we've done it, and we're here, and I'm excited.
Finally here. We get the chat. Let's do it.
Now, I want you to finish this sentence for me, okay?
Okay.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Marva, and when she grew up, she wanted to be...
A teacher.
You wanted to be a teacher?
Yeah.
I'm guessing you must have had a teacher in your life that was pretty awesome.
Absolutely. Her name was Mrs. Epps. Was my great teacher. I will always remember that lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was amazing. She taught me a lot.
And what age was that?
Oh, what age? 5th grade? Let's see. Is it kindergarten? You're in 5th. So, I mean, you're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 9, 10. Yeah. Yeah, right before awesome. 6th grade. Yeah, I especially remember she taught an etiquette class. The boys had to be gentlemen, and the girls had to be ladies, and had to sit at a table. And oh my gosh, there's a lot that I remember from Miss Epps, but that one is a great memory because there's still things that I remember and do to this day. Like, you're supposed to sit at a table like this and go from here or inside out, I think it is. Either way, girl, Miss Epps always pops up for me, my 5th grade teacher.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So at what point do we kind of move from teacher? Like, did you go in to do any teacher's training or anything like that? Or like how long did you want to be a teacher for?
I remember in high school, I started to be like a teacher's assistant at my former middle school.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then from high school, I started tutoring at a charter school and became a site coordinator. And I actually thought that while I was going to college, I was getting my your general studies, and then I was going to go into getting my credentials along with my bachelor's to teach elementary. So I think I was going to do multiple subject credentials. But me working at the charter school, when I became a site coordinator, I saw the business side of the school, and I was like, it's not for me. So I got out of there, but always did hair. So that was kind of 2015. No, that's when I graduated from cosmetology school. So 2013 and 2014 was like that transition year from what am I going to do? Because I clearly don't want to do this anymore. But hair was always something I've always done. I just came from a household where they didn't believe that hair was like a real job. So it was like, you still got to get a real job with benefits and, that whole thing. But I had some people at a former job. I used to be a banker at, where was it? Hustler Casino and Crystal Casino. I used to be a banker and started doing everybody's hair there. And I had a couple of dealers ask me to go into business with them to do like a beauty salon or a beauty supply store. And I'm thinking, if you're asking me, like, you clearly see that you can make some money with me. And I was like, I think I can do this. So I looked into cosmetology schools and wound up at Aveda. And that was the end of 2013. So all of 2014, graduated in 2015. And yeah, I never looked back after that.
Okay. I have questions.
Yeah.
So my first question is, what's a banker do at a casino?
So the laws in California are different from Vegas. So like you go to Vegas and you go to a casino, hotel, when you win money, that's the actual casino hotel's money. In California, because of the Indian reservations, it's separate. The money is separate from the actual casino. So I worked with, it's called for the corporation, and the corporation is the money. The casino part is separate. That's a whole nother entity. So when if you won anything from a casino in California that was not on an Indian reservation, you were winning money from the corporation, not the casino.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had to learn all the games. I had to know all the rules, and, I had to keep up with who won. you won, I pushed out the money to the dealer, and then they will pay you. If you lost, the dealer would collect the money and then give it to me.
Ah, okay. And then my other question is, so you're saying hair was always the thing that you were doing. So talk to me about that. Whose hair were
Um,
you doing growing up?
I learned how to braid on my Barbie doll, I think it was, on
Yeah.
a bus going to a church camp called
Mm,
Glorieta, New Mexico. And one of the girls that was sitting across from me she was older than me, but she saw that I had my doll. She sat next to me and asked me if I knew how to braid, and I said no. So she taught me how to do a 3-strand braid. And
mm,
from there, all of elementary, middle school, and high school, I did hair. I will run into mothers of daughters that I went to school with, like, you sent my baby home with a different hairstyle than what I sent her to school with. So I was always playing in somebody's head. Um, and I think I started charging uh, for braids. I did this girl's hair in middle school. It was at Curtis Middle School. That was the
mm,
first time that I charged somebody $60, I think it was, to do some braids.
mm.
So I always did hair, whether it was my hair, my cousin's hair, friends' hair, my mother's hair, my grandmother's hair. Like I just started doing everybody's hair. It was just always something I did and enjoyed.
That's awesome. So mainly braiding, or were you branching out and doing all sorts of stuff?
I branched out and did
Mm,
whatever was trending, whatever was popular at the time. But it started with braids. So I was
yeah.
always a braider. I was known as a braider. And then, of course, when they see you do other stuff, and it was like, oh, can you do my hair for this? Like the dances at the parks and the dances at your schools, that kind of thing. So um, and I believe there was a friend of mine's in middle school. Her older sister went to cosmetology school and was a hairstylist. So I
Mm,
also learned a lot from her. Her name was Lachelle. Shell, I think it was. But she went to Bellflower Adult School. They had a cosmetology program, and I remember back in the day, like that was the cosmetology school to go to.
mm.
And I couldn't go because I had a younger brother, so it was one of those you got to take him to school and that whole thing. So I first wound it up at Flavio's in Torrance and didn't like that school. And then I was like, I don't think hair is for me. And so then I went off to college. So
God, isn't it funny that like just the environment of that school made you think it wasn't the direction you should go in? Like
yeah,
something, yeah,
yeah. I didn't think I was learning. And they were so quick to throw whoever they thought was talented right onto the floor.
right.
Because we would have people come in and I mean we were still doing roller sets and girl. I remember if I had finished back then, I would have done the test where you had to do like the finger waves and the pin curls, and I remember all of that.
Mhm.
But then years later, when I went to Aveda, they had got rid of all of that. So part of me wish I would have stuck to it the first time because you see, or at least I see now, how essential knowing the basics are.
Yeah,
Then to
yeah,
like we're just gonna scrap it, and you're like you really need to know,
yeah.
the
It,
basics.
it it is interesting because when I did my test back in New Zealand, it was like a it's like a day that you were fully booked in the salon.
Yeah.
So it was you had to get all your models and you had to do one of like everything.
Mhm.
And then but the last thing of the day was not on a model, it was on a mannequin head and it was a full head of finger waves and pin curls and you had to do it in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking, on what planet do I need to know this? Like, why do I need to know this?
Right.
And then my tutor was just like, it teaches you how to control and mold hair.
Yeah.
And if you can nail that, then you should be able to just,
Yeah.
mold
Mhm.
anything
Yeah.
within reason.
Right. Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then I did it and I was like, I'm never not gonna need to do that again. And then and then I went to makeup school to
Mhm.
work in film.
Mhm.
And of course in New Zealand you do both, hair and makeup. And along come the finger waves again. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Mhm.
I was like, oh God, okay, this
Yeah.
is handy that I already know how to do this, but
Yeah.
whatever. And
Yeah.
then I was thinking, yeah, I don't know how often I'm going to get to do that. It's like so narrow minded. Like I couldn't,
Yeah. And then
I
you do
couldn't
it all
see
the time.
yeah, it's so insane. And yeah, then the first film I worked on, like feature film,
Mhm.
it was set in the 20s.
Mhm.
So I was able to kind of go up to them and be like, guys, you need to hire me because I can fully do a,
Right.
you know, full head of finger waves,
Right.
like bang that stuff out.
Right.
And then I was just like, oh, I get it now. I can't believe it took me so long
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Absolutely.
see the point of it. But yeah, that's interesting. So going cosmetology school,
Mhm.
doing that, and then where is all this? This isn't all in California.
This is all in California.
Nice.
So when I made the decision to go to cosmetology school,
Mm,
um, doing that and then still trying to work at the casino was very tough. I mean, like I remember
mm,
days of getting absolutely no sleep. So going to school all day, then working all night.
mm,
Um, and I think I did that for maybe 4 months before I was like, I have to choose which one I
yeah,
wanted to do. And
yeah.
I remember saying a prayer and kind of was like, all right, if I'm supposed to do this hair,
Mm,
you got to make it work out, you know? So
yeah.
I quit the casino and just started going like really hard at, like having like a clientele, like a recurring clientele, obviously. And then
Mm,
being in school and that Aveda really opened me up to a lot because I remember um, what is it called? The Beacon, is it the Beacon Awards that
oh, I
they
don't know.
have at the NAHA every year in Vegas? They had
Okay.
us to apply for it, and there were certain things you had to do, like have a portfolio, a website, you had to do a photo shoot. So I did it, and you can either be a winner or an honorable mention. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was one of three honorable mentions from Aveda 2014 or 2015. I think 2015. So you get to go to Vegas. Um, you get to be a part of this whole weekend of panels. And this is where, I kind of remember some of these names like Ted Gibson. There's a lady who was a daughter of somebody. Was it Vidal Sassoon? Somebody had a line in a school. I think it was a bunch of people like giants in our beauty industry, and they talked to us and they encouraged us and told us of their journeys. And then you go to the NAHA Awards, and I'm
Mm,
seeing all of these amazing hairstyles. And I remember looking because it was pretty huge. I remember looking around and I did not see a lot of us people of color.
mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, okay, if I'm gonna do this, I want to be on this side um, of the game. Not saying anything, negative about the other side, but just like I wanted to be around people who are amazingly talented, but just also doing like really big shit. Like I want to do that. Still had no idea about film at this time, just so you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Well, I mean that whole experience in itself is opening your eyes to so many
so
different
much
things
more.
already. Like that's a whole different
Yeah,
area or areas
yeah,
to kind of be like, oh wow, there's options. There's
yeah.
all
There's
sorts of different stuff.
absolutely way more than just
Mm,
being in a salon, behind the chair. So left from there with a lot of inspiration. And
mm,
Aveda had like volunteer, you can get more hours volunteering on the weekends for whatever events. And there was a beauty event put on that I later found out was by a producer and his wife over in Santa Monica. I was the only one from my school to go that Saturday with the teacher. And it was an event set up for the homeless woman in Santa Monica,
mm,
and it was hairstylists from Tony and Guy. I was the only one from Aveda, and there was another cosmetology school, and then they had these makeup artists, and there was I can't remember her name. It's Michelle something, but is she a hairstylist in the union? She was the first union person I met, and then Rocky, is it Rocky Calderon? the makeup artist. That's where I
Okay.
in our union now. That was where I
Mm,
first met Rocky. And so we exchanged numbers, and Rocky referred me to a producer for a short film. They needed a hairstylist to do 1940s hairstyles.
mm.
And she called, told me about it. I said, like, yeah, I can do it. Girl, I must have I went to this one teacher at Obeda because he was known for he had this mustache, the mustache that like curls up, and he wore his hair
Mhm.
a certain way. And I was like, I think he's the one to talk to. And so I went up to him and I was like, can you help me learn a couple 1940s hairstyles? I just told this producer I can do this hair. He was like, yeah.
Yeah.
So he taught me how to do a few, and I go and I do this short film, and I remember working 18 hours for
Mm.
$150. And when I tell you I loved it, I was like, I want to do this. And I remember
So-
I had no idea. And I remember the AD of that project was this Black woman. And she must have knew I was green because she came and she grabbed my hand and she just took me around like, okay, baby, this is what you do. This is last looks. And I said, oh, okay. And I'm just taking this all in. And I remember being so tired at the end of the night and I was like, I still got to work 2 more days. I'm like, I want to do this. Like, I love this. Like, actually, once you see the character comes together, like I'm doing the hair and it's still not dawning on me, and then just see the makeup and then the wardrobe and everything. And I'm like, or the costume. And I'm like, wow, okay, I want to do this. And so then that became the mission of how do I do this, but like, how do you work on the movies and the TV shows? And
yeah.
the more I said it out loud and talking to people, and then people start talking. Well, you should talk to this person or that person, and it just became a continued conversation of just how do I do this, and just little bit by
Mm.
bit pieces will come. And I kind of already had a website together from Beacon, so this is also showing you the steps of like how this all
Mm.
comes to play. So I
Mm.
had a website already from Beacon. And then it was like, okay, well, how do I build that up to show more of a portfolio and show your range? And then I remember getting on Craigslist. And that's how you and I met, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember having a template already together so that I could respond to whatever alerts that came in. And then I would customize the template to whatever was needed, from the posting. And I got a couple of really legit jobs. I mean, you were one of them when I first met you and
Yeah.
Lene.
Yeah, I just want to I'm going to just expand on that a little bit because when I so that was before union days. What
Mm-hmm.
was it? It was for a pilot. It was a period thing.
Mm-hmm.
I needed help with background stuff and I put an ad on Craigslist and I
Yeah,
was just like, "Oh man, I don't know what kind of responses I'm going to get." And I will say it was only you and Lene
I love
that
it.
responded in a professional manner.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? Like I got a lot of responses,
Yeah.
but they would just seemed like 3 words, like I can do it, or
Okay.
I'm available, or it's just like what?
Right.
Like no, this isn't how this works.
Yeah.
Like, and it just I would just pretty much just put those responses in the trash because it's just like
Yeah.
I'm not chasing you for this. Like,
You're right.
and just crossing fingers that hopefully a couple of people at least kind of come through with some professionalism.
Right.
And that was you and Lene. And then both of you have continued on into the union and
Yeah.
still working and doing really well. And I'm just like, yeah, there's
Yeah.
something to it, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, continue. What were you
Yeah.
I just interrupted.
I know. Listen, that was amazing. I just, it's amazing just to even talk about this and to really look like how everything was just a stepping stone
Mm,
to the next place, or even the next piece. But I did that for a while. I had set up alerts on Craigslist, so certain words for postings would come through, and it's like, okay, is this something I'm going to do? And eventually, I learned from somebody that I needed to get a mentor, and I'm trying to think, where was I? It was on not Craigslist. It was on Instagram. This is how I came across with Camille.
Oh
And
yeah.
and I was like, oh, okay, I want to do that. And I saw that she was having classes, and I think she had just, or she was about to give a class by the time I came across her page. And I was like, it was too soon for me to just, jump and everything. And so I remember sending her a DM. I think she replied like a couple weeks later or whatever. But by that time, I had already saw when the next class was, and I had already
Mm-hmm.
purchased and booked my ticket. And it was like, yeah, girl, I'm gonna see you. I'm coming to your class, in Atlanta. And so I went down there and learned a great deal from her, from Louisa, from Tim. And I remember, oh my gosh, I remember being there, taking in all this knowledge, excuse me, and I got a call for a job
Mm-hmm.
while I was there. And by the time I had called back, because it was during like whatever the lecture was, they had already hired, like called the next person and hired, and it was for a movie, and I was like, and I remember being in tears, and it was Louisa who talked to me like, baby, if it was for you, they would have hired you, but you're supposed to be here. So it had to gather myself, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this knowledge back to LA. I don't know how or when I'm gonna do any of what I had just learned, like the rap and everything. Uh,
Yeah.
but I said okay, and I remember going up to both Camille and Louisa to just thank them, and I remember Camille saying, "Give me your number," and so then from there, um, that was late 2016, I believe it was, and then from there, I read a book called, is it The Art of Assisting? And I
Okay.
can't think of the name of the lady who wrote it, but I
Hmm.
do remember her some tips as far as like when you meet someone and you want them to mentor you, to realize that it's a two-way street. Like you already see their value, but
Mm-hmm.
they have to see your value. And so, um, how to communicate with them. Like you don't want to bug them, but how to communicate with them, email or call or whatever. And you have to find something so that it kind of makes sense. Like you just not like, hey, I'm available if you ever need me. And I think I did like an email or a text once a month for a couple months. And it was just enough to kind of keep my name, on her mind. And I
Mm.
remember it from there. It started with, like, can you come and help me load into a trailer? Can you come and help wash wigs and whatever it was? And I mean, I would change my entire schedule anytime she would call to be like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I
Mm-hmm.
never asked to be paid. It was never, like when I'm a work with you kind of thing. I was just grateful to even be in the space, right? And I always learned something, what to do, what not to do wherever I was there. And so um in some way it was like I hope that I'm showing my value,
Mm.
because clearly I want to do what you're doing as far as being in the union, but I
Mm.
couldn't tell you the first thing of what I needed to do, to get there. And so little by little, she started to help me, and I would get, I was getting referred by this time for union stuff. Like I remember getting calls for a lot of Target commercials, but then the moment they find out you're not union, it was like,
Mm.
we can't hire you. And so it felt like little dampers, on my, like little doubts, like, I don't know if it's going to happen, and then
Mm.
I made the decision that like, I'm in the union. I started saying I'm in the union. I wasn't telling people that, it was just something for me, that I'm in the union. I was thanking God that I was in the union. And I got a call about a movie, and I said, yeah, I want to do it. And the guy said, are you union? And I was like, no. And it was like, okay. And then I get another, and I'm like, dang, I'm not gonna get it because I'm not in the union. I get another
Mm.
call the next day, and I remember I was doing somebody's hair, and they called, asked if I was available, asked if I was available for an interview, and I said yeah. And I remember getting off the phone thinking, I don't know, because probably by the time they asked me if I'm union, I may not get it. So I didn't have any real expectation,
Yeah.
and I get a call from the executive producer like the next day, and I'm kind of thinking like, how am I? you ain't asked me if I'm in the union. Like, he was talking as if they had already given me the job.
Right.
And
And you're like, you know, I'm not
right,
union, right? Like you're just
right,
confused as to like in your
right.
own mind.
But when I go to the interview is when the what later I found out the UPM, they hadn't signed on yet with the
Oh, they hadn't signed their union contract yet.
right.
Right.
So so this is where I meet Galaxy. And
Oh, lovely. Awesome.
where I
Yeah.
meet Galaxy, and I get the job. And girl, I don't know what high blood pressure feels like, but I think I had it that day. Because I could not explain the feeling of pressure, like especially once I got it. And I
Mm,
remember calling Camilla. She's like, okay, like you got it. Now you got to do the job. And it was a matter of
mm-hmm.
getting me ready. And thank God that job, which was so lovely, it was only me. So, I only had to manage me,
Yeah. Yeah.
nobody else. Right.
Yeah.
Um, and that's how I got my days and got into the union. And again, you see how this just leads to the next piece. And so the next movie I got hired for, Galaxy, was also the department head for makeup. And we go and do that. And we're in New Mexico. And we finished that. And then that's when we start prep for us.
Mm-hmm.
And, learn how to do sister locks and everything. And yeah, girl, got into the union. What was it, August 8th, 2018? And then that became a full circle for me, you and Lene, because prior to that, at least my time with both of you was on that pilot when we were,
On that pilot. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, 9.
Yeah. That's right. Reunion.
Yeah, it was. It was. Um, so like that's how I got into the union, and then just everything kind of just took off. Um, from there.
That's awesome. I loved that book. Must have been pretty great. I might need to get the find out what that
Oh,
book is that you're talking about, because I think that's a really great way to, I don't know, because when we do the mentoring program, I feel like a few mentees that get chosen, I think they think it's just all up to the mentor to kind
mm,
of guide the way. And it's
yeah,
just kind of like, no, guys, they don't know what you don't know. They don't know what you do know. Like,
yeah,
you've got to at least start with a list of questions of
yeah,
to get the ball rolling,
yeah.
because they can start, you know, teaching or talking to you about something that you're like, yeah, I know all about that. Or, like whatever it is. But it's just that whole kind of, you see the value in what a mentor can give you,
Mm-hmm,
and then just that the other side of it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was really great to hear. So
The book was amazing.
yeah,
I'm
I'll
gonna
need to
I'm
get
gonna
that.
get the I remember the title of it. I'm gonna find it in the author and send it to you because it helped me a lot. It helped me a lot with just
Awesome.
how you communicate, and learning under someone because a mentor is to show you exactly how you can do, this or
Yeah,
whatever it
yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll put that, like a link to it or something, in the show notes
Okay.
so people can check it out.
Yeah.
Now that you have all these projects under your belt, I just kind of want to talk about 3 of your favorites and why.
3 of my favorites. Okay, I'm gonna start with my current favorite,
Yeah.
Hacks.
Oh, nice. Fun.
Yes. It's so funny. Um, it is, they're already made family. This is the 4th season, so I've just joined. And
Mm.
so especially the hair and makeup crew, the way they have welcomed me in, it's almost as if I was always there, already made family. It's girls, so much fun. It's no, mess. And even on the peak days, because you always know like there's gonna be a day, you know.
Mm.
Even in those days, it's still, I mean, we're probably all together collectively, like, what the fuck,
Yeah.
We take care of each other and we support each other. And, whenever there's a a day where just someone, whether they don't feel good or something's going on, just the love and the support. And I say this, I think from COVID and
Mm.
even the strike has changed a lot of people's perspective of those of us who are in this business, right? Because you realize it's so much more than just this business. Like we're actual
Mhm.
human beings with
Mhm.
lives, family, and if you don't take care of yourself, you're no good to nobody, right? So
Mm.
I love that with that in mind and still getting the job done, right?
Mm.
But just the love and the kindness um that I've been able to experience in these last couple of years, it's been awesome. Um, my second favorite project, and I'm gonna link it with hacks, is shrinking. Same thing. A family unit, both cast and crew, very lovely. Um, and because it's contemporary, it's modern day, Pasadena, the hair is, I don't want to say like whatever, but it just feels very normal and natural of what the everyday person would do and
Mm.
not someone who, I mean, you have those who, girl, the glam has to be on 100, every day. It's not that for this show. And it was
Yeah.
a nice ease because that was the first show after the strike full time for me. So it was a
Mm.
nice ease back into a full time show that's not like wig heavy, and having to do all the things. But then I missed that while I was on that show. And
Yeah.
like, I want more of a creative challenge. This was great, but I can do more than this, you know?
Mm. Mm.
And then I get asked to join Hacks. And one of my duties is the stunt and double wigs for Deborah Vance. And to try to mimic and replicate what Jen Bell does on Jen Smart, girl, you talking about had my work cut out for me. Um, but I love it when now we get the double takes because you can't tell who's who, and I'm like, yes, I'm
Yeah.
doing it.
Oh, it's a
Um,
good feeling.
oh my gosh, girl, because when we first started, I was nervous. Like, okay, I need to watch how you do it because if I can watch your hand, then I can mimic it, and we got it. And she's been such a great help. Her and Keith, who's Jean Smart's makeup, they've both been a great help. Aubrey and Becca, it's an amazing team. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just I think it's for anyone who gets given the stunts or doubles, like don't turn your nose up at it. Like don't be like, "Oh, what? I'm only doing doubles," or, it's just like, "Oh my god, the beauty of that,
Mhm.
especially if you're wanting to do wigs and stuff
Yeah,
more.
yeah,
It's everything from training and just getting that eye for detail
yeah,
down to a like, hair for hair,
yeah,
being able to copy and replicate, and that helps you with continuity as well, being
absolutely,
able to see those shapes,
absolutely,
those textures, those lengths, like all that type of stuff.
yeah.
Um, and then being able to do it again and again and
Mhm,
again, that
mhm,
repetition. So
mhm.
it's such great, yeah. It's a anyone that gets that opportunity, I think it's
I'm like,
take it, run
do
with
it
it.
and run with that and
Yeah.
learn, girl. Because let me tell you, I've learned so much from Jen just from trying to replicate her hand, just how she breaks down, because there's several styles um, that I have to replicate that she has, for Deborah. And she even told me, like, our hand, we're always changing or, one fine tune something. And so I literally have to keep an eye on it from every angle,
Mm.
just to be like, okay, wait, is the shape there? Okay, wait. And, it's always, and it's somewhat nerve wracking, but then when you get it, you're like, okay, great. The other fine thing about it is, Jen will also judge it my, the wigs to whatever details she just did, because it's always a little different, right? And
Mm,
so I
mm.
love that it's also a collaboration. It's not just because I'm matching what you do. You know what I'm saying? So this is not a, for some of us hairstylists, like the ego is tricky, right? You can't I can't have an ego in this one at all, because this is
Mm-mm.
not, I'm replicating her work, which is amazing and beautiful. And I've seen where I've gotten just better with how you construct a hairstyle. And then, like she told me, if you do it like this, if you break it down into sections, then you'll see where your mistake is and you can easily go back and fix it. Or, when you break it down and you have to go into, like, from a French roll, to when it's this updo that's in like a ponytail, the sections are still there, you know,
Mm.
and it's just easy, like, to go from this French roll and take that down. And I was like, oh, you're right. And girl, now maybe I don't have to spend 2 and 3 hours on it. It just becomes less time consuming.
Yeah.
But I've learned a lot. And then there's times where she'll go and she'll look at it and she'll be like,
Thumbs up.
like
Yeah.
nothing. I don't need to change nothing. She was like, no, girl, you got it. I'm like, oh man. And I love that just spoke earlier this year, like, I need more of a creative challenge. And then I get it, with
Yeah.
this one. Um, and so I'm like, oh, I also need to be careful with what I say, when I'm speaking of what I want, which is a big thing too. But no, like,
Mm.
that's lovely. And then my third favorite, it's really a tie, and I'm gonna explain why. I'm always going to love mixed dish. Um, with Tika, that both season 1 and 2, amazing seasons. That was my first time really like a family. Um,
Mhm.
the second season, which is when COVID hit and I was pregnant. When I tell you they took care of me, they took care of me.
Yeah.
And I will always, always, be grateful and appreciative of that. And we did some really fun hairstyling on that show. It was set in the 80s, and I know there was a little bit of, I won't say controversy, but like, you do see like a lot of, like, okay, those were like late 80s hairstyles, and then trying to bring in that natural texture, to a degree, with like how they really wore their natural. But when you have
Mm.
someone who wants to wear it a certain way, and I'm like, okay, great, and no one's complaining, no one's saying not to.
Mm.
You may hear from, like, I don't know, we was really wearing our hair like that. I'm like, listen, the style, yeah, but as far as the texture part, probably not. But it was great. I have fun with the hairstyles, and I think this is also where I've learned to have and even build up my kit from, you know, for a certain person, because I was also doing her press, a lot of stuff
Mm.
outside of the show. So needing, all the different hair pieces and wigs and wiglets and ponytails that we needed for the show, and then also needing that stuff, for outside for my kid,
Mm.
for her, like, because that stuff gets expensive after a while. But it just, in the, how we have to do our changeovers, right? So
Mm.
that's also where I've learned, like, how to make it easy for me, but where I'm also not damaging her hair.
Mm.
How do you go from one style easily into the next, and you can get it done in less than 20 minutes? So
Mm.
it's a lot of that, that I learned on that show. But I tie that show as a favorite with Legion, because not only was Legion my first key job, but Legion was just a beast of a show. And I worked, the department head was Joyce Zapata, who I absolutely love. And when I tell you, she worked being Norma, and I love me some Norma. But that show was super wig heavy. And I learned a lot. That job, I feel, prepped me for Black Panther,
Mhm.
like how wig heavy it was, and how you can have 2 and 3 units going on at one time. And where you
Right,
just
right.
have to have eyes in all these different places, and how you crew up, for all of that, putting certain people in certain places. And
Mm,
um, I think that job, and looking back, I'm like, that was a Marvel job. It was a Marvel TV show. I don't think it dawned on me,
right,
then,
right,
but
right. I didn't know that either, actually. I don't think I thought about that either.
mm-hmm. But
Hmm, interesting.
it prepped. I mean, it was a Marvel show on FX, but it prepped me for how a beast of a job Black Panther was. So
Yeah, yeah.
um, that's why I say that's tied with Mixish, because I'm just able to look back and be like, dang, that was a good show. And then just how it preps you, like how your growth and your progression from there, and the things that you learned on that show, and where it's,
Mm,
taking you, or you have to revert back and be like, oh, okay, I gotta go. I did this on that. I need to do that here. So those are I mean, that would be like my four favorite shows, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome. And for anyone that hasn't seen any of them, they're all great shows too. So you should check them out. Like I've enjoyed all of them. So
Yeah.
and so what would you, I mean, I know that every job that we do is a challenge
Hmm.
in one way or another. But what would you say would have to be the most challenging project you've done?
The most challenging definitely was Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was
I mean, it's huge.
it's huge. It was still COVID. Um,
Oh yeah,
it was
far
yeah,
out.
it was still
Yeah,
COVID.
yeah.
It was also because we were in Atlanta and the weather is just so unpredictable. So
Mm,
lots of days where rain and thunder, either
mm,
stopped us for a couple of hours or just, all right, we done for the day. But then to have, whether it was departments at a time that would fall under, because, a lot of people would get sick,
yeah.
the
Oh,
actors. So changing, like the schedule just constantly changed. And then you needed to be prepared for all of that. So all the stuff that we had to prep and do just because you did not know,
mm,
from day to day of what would change. And then what was the other one? It was, oh, Tish had got injured. And so that added on. We started end of May, went home November, and then we had to go back January to March, end of March. So that added on another like 3.5 months to
oh
something.
wow.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The like you. There's a. It's so funny. I explained this to my mum the other day. Here's a really random side story.
Yeah.
But we went into some caves like to
Mhm.
go see glowworms.
Mhm.
We're in New Zealand,
Mhm.
and there was this metal tube like pipe that was from up on ground level
Mhm.
outside that went down into this cave,
Okay.
and you could look up it to see daylight. And stupidly, I thought that the hole at the end would be quite big, like that we weren't underground that far, but it turns out we were underground quite a bit. So the light at the end of the tunnel was like this tiny
Hope.
little hole of light. And I just randomly turned to mum and I was just like, oh, that's how I feel at the beginning of a job. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I was just like, I can always see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like if you have an end date on a schedule,
Uh-huh.
and I don't know if that's I don't know if I'm viewing that as a negative thing or not, but I do like to see
You can still see
an
it.
end date, yeah, and the light at the end of a tunnel.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and me thinking that that light was going to be a lot closer,
Yeah.
and then seeing it teeny tiny, I was just like, oh yeah, I've done jobs like that where you think the end is closer
Right.
than than it actually ends up being. And that light, instead of it getting bigger and closer, it
Uh-huh.
starts like kind of moving away from you. And you're like, no, no, no,
When we're almost done.
no.
I just love that the fact that you could even still see the light though, no matter how small it is,
Yeah.
still see it. So maybe, just focusing on that, and then again gradually gets bigger and bigger. I don't know. 'Cause with that one, it was like you just didn't know. It was just so many things that we
Your
just
light kept moving. It's just like,
we just didn't know. But by the time we went back, I think
mm,
it's when it was like, okay, we got an end date, and we know this because we ended in Puerto Rico.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and one March 24th, 25th. It was a couple days after my birthday, I remember, and I was like,
Hmm.
girl, I couldn't get on that plane fast enough to get back home. Um, then just to go back a couple months later, not even a couple months later, that was end of
What, to do reshoots?
no.
Oh, just to
I
keep
went
to finish it.
back I went back to Atlanta to start Ironheart. Um,
Oh right, I see
I,
what you're
t-
saying.
I had to go back in May, so I probably was only home maybe a good month and a half. But then I also was
Hmm.
flying to Canada in that time to establish a character on another show, Lexi Underwood for what's the name of that show? Cruel Summers. I think it was Cruel
Okay.
Summers. And so that was a great experience because I wasn't going to be able to stay up there, which we knew, but it was great to be able to go up there and establish a character in all of her looks for the
Oh
run of the
cool.
show, and then
Yeah.
to train somebody up there to, do her hair. So that was a great experience in between that, and then I had to go back to Atlanta to do
Yeah.
art. So yeah.
Okay. So, listening to you and all these
See?
adventures that you're going on, yeah,
Mhm.
that kind of brings me to the question about the work-life balance.
Mm.
And because you've got two kids,
I have to.
you are a mama.
Yeah.
So, how on earth, lady, do you work all this out? Like, and what kind of boundaries have you put in place, if any? Because some people do that a little late too. They kind of
Yeah.
work out those boundaries a little
Yeah.
later and they're like, oh, I need to set some boundaries for myself.
Absolutely. Well, coming into the business, I only had my daughter at first, and
Mm.
I will say I have an
And
awesome
don't say only.
only my daughter. I
That's a big deal.
no, it is. I have an awesome village in support.
Hmm.
My parents, so I
Awesome.
wouldn't have been able to do half of what I do if it was not for them. They're retired, and
Mm.
they've been very present with all of their grandkids. So this was no different.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so I'm very, very grateful for my parents. Um, so I didn't really have boundaries really in the beginning coming into this business, even with my daughter. It was just she was also like, what age was the line? I think she was going into like not sixth grade, seventh, eighth grade when I got into this business, and
Mm.
she was just at that teenage age where it was kind of like she wanted to be with her friends, so it kind of worked out to a degree. Um,
Yeah.
but with my son, um, definitely had to create some boundaries for myself.
Hmm.
And I also started therapy. I started therapy actually right after Black Panther. I think I called the therapist like on the plane. But and that's where I learned too about the boundaries
Mm.
and how
Mm.
to, enforce it, like create them and enforce them.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice.
so and that's been a work in progress. Like it's a practice for me now,
Mm.
given that he's 4. Because I even saw, as much time as you're away working all these hours, how it
Mm.
affects your kids. And I saw that more with him than I did with my daughter because I was there with
Right.
her. Um,
Yeah.
and so I also got very clear on the kind of projects I want to work on, but also the kind of people I want to work with. And
Right.
so the last, um, both hacks and shrinking, um, and even Ironheart, because I was able to bring my kids back to Atlanta. My parents were with me in Atlanta.
Oh, awesome.
It was the experience was great, and even with the hours, like the whole days where you don't have to work, I could spend with my parents and my kids, so that was great.
Hmm.
But
Mm.
getting clear on being around people that where you're more aligned with people who also have boundaries and family where it's if you create a department where you take care of each other, and if you can leave and go to a doctor's appointment, a dentist appointment, or take the kids, you can meet your kids for their recitals or whatever. And it's just a matter of having your actor covered, or and them being comfortable and knowing like, hey, you said you great, right? I'm gonna go
Yeah.
out and you're gonna be good. And you make sure they're in well capable hands. Um, People want to come to work.
Mm.
It's not that.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go to work because you're around people that you know y'all gonna take care of each other, but y'all also gonna do some damn good hair, and you're gonna have a great
Yeah.
time doing it. It's a difference of when you take care of your crew. And
Yeah.
so I have had the pleasure to be with some teams that's what we do. We take care of each other. You know, you go home early today and have dinner and tuck your kids in. I'm gonna stay late today. I can do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's one
Yeah.
of those. And I'm really grateful to be around that. And also those of us who, okay, I got therapy that can I make my therapy appointment tomorrow at 11? Like, does that work? Can we look at the schedule?
Mm.
Yeah. You know, and so then you're still taking care of yourself, but you're also
Mm.
making sure the job gets done as well. And
Yeah.
that whole sense of being so obligated to a job, you know, to a show or a movie where you can't take care of yourself, I
Mm.
don't think that's healthy,
No,
you
it's
know?
not.
So I've been blessed to have that, and I continue to speak that and want that, you know, manifest that for myself. And I scream it to others. Not scream it, but you know, I tell it to others. Like, you can absolutely have that if that's what you want. Now, if you want to dedicate your whole life to this, by all means, go right ahead. You know,
Yeah.
um,
But please don't expect other people to do the same
no,
thing. Yeah.
no, and since I've done that, I've come around more people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it just makes it easy, you
Yeah.
know. And we're on each other, whether it's about how much water did you drink today? Let's make sure we drink
Mm-hmm.
enough water, stay hydrated. You know,
Yeah.
did you have therapy this week? Can you have? When can you schedule it? You know, work out, you know, if you can, whether that's just us walking around. I mean, we're at
Mm.
Universal, or that's just, you know, walking around the trailer a couple times or whatever. Like, health, wealth, and your mental,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah.
So I between my village, my parents, and also creating that space of being around people that's like minded helps me to have a very well balanced work life balance,
Yeah.
you know, and it's amazing. Now, granted, you know, because of the things that I still, you know, would love to accomplish and do, there may be a job where I have to, I'm a, this job is going to be this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if that is the goal for however long that job stands, and that's the decision that's made, then okay, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then you fit in everything else that you need to so that you can stay 100.
Yeah.
Um, but not just there yet, and where I'm at, I'm Gucci girl.
Yeah.
I absolutely love where I'm at, and
Yeah.
I'm not compromising that at all.
So, for someone that's maybe not in that position and isn't working with people like minded like that, like what would be the first? Because my thought is that you kind of communication, right? Is the
Absolutely.
first thing. Like you need to let people know what you know, where your priorities are,
Yeah.
what things you might need to get to, and give them, you know, make them aware of it
Yes.
as soon as you're aware of it to
Yeah.
give them notice so things can be put in place to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I guess there's also, I mean, is it at the interview process, like when someone's actually reaching out to you to work with them? Is that something that you would recommend kind of bringing up in the conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would,
Mm.
because I did.
Yeah.
And not so much of like, I'm going to do this. And if you can't, not
Yeah.
right. Just, um, you know, I'm a hard worker. And because let me stop. I also believe it's great to tell people what you can do and what you can't do
Yeah.
foremost. And
Yeah.
if the job is not so much of them thinking, am I right for the job? I'm also thinking, is this job right for me?
Yeah. It is the interview process, I believe, always goes both ways.
Yes.
When I'm being interviewed for something, I'm also asking them questions
Yes.
for me to figure out, like, am I the right person for
Yeah.
this job? Because I'm going to be the first person to tell you that this is not
Right.
right for me. Like, you need to find someone that is a better
Yeah.
fit for
Yes.
this. So,
Yes. So
yeah.
I do believe it's the interview process where you state certain key things that you like, have your non-negotiables,
Mm-hmm.
and if you hear in that there's a few non-negotiables where you're like, then like you just said, you say, I don't think this is for me, and I'll respectfully, pass or decline. Um, but if you don't hear anything as far as non-negotiables, then it may be the job for you, and then if there's
Mm.
other things, like, okay, well, just so you know, I have 2 children, and
Mm-hmm.
one is much older, so she can kind of fend for herself, but there's a
Mm-hmm.
toddler involved. So there may be some days, doctor's appointments, and, depending on the season, recitals or what have you, as long as I let you know upfront dates and times, can we work it out to where, and if this is not an
Yeah.
everyday thing, sometimes it's not even an every week thing, but just so you're aware, I have a toddler that sometimes mommy does have to step away and do some things, right?
Yeah.
Whenever I can accommodate, make other arrangements, I do that. Um,
Yeah.
and it's worked out. The ones that since I've said that and made that very clear, it's like, okay, baby, no problem, we'll make it work. Whatever,
Yeah.
whatever you need. And it's not just me, the moment someone else has to go and do whatever they need to do for their kids or husband or whatever, girl, okay, we pick up what you need. What I need to do, I need the matches. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And they know that they're being taken care of. They take care of you. It's a happy family. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely should. Communication is key for sure.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. Just yeah, don't be scared to say it out loud because I mean, what's the worst answer? No.
That part. Listen, if you ever watch this, like, say it scared, okay, shaking in
Yeah.
boots, but don't hold anything. Like if you need to say something, say it. You are the only one that can advocate for yourself, so you have to speak
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And as someone that is hiring people, I would much rather somebody say all of that up front
hmm
than if I was to be, we're deep into a job
Right.
and they're giving me last minute, like, oh, this evening I have to go, and I'll be like, I'm sorry, what?
No.
Like, no, 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 no.
You
It's just
don't
like if
have that.
if you're telling me this at the beginning, then we can plan for it,
Yeah. That's how that
So,
works.
but last minute, like, and I know that shit happens last
Yeah.
minute every now and then. It's just like whatever. But
Right.
if that keeps happening, I'm gonna start thinking, hang on, you knew that this was
hmm
how your life needed to work at the beginning. Like,
hmm
why would you not
Tell
express
me.
that?
Yeah.
And not that I don't think it would be a thing of like, I don't think you're right for this job because of all that.
Right.
It would just be like, okay, well, you have to help me help you
Yeah.
to make this work.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to tell you, like, if I know it's going to be a fucking insane job,
Yeah.
then I'm going to tell you that in that moment and be like, okay, well, this is what is going to be needed.
Yeah.
And we will try to do what we need to do for you to be able to do all that stuff. But just know it's going to be fucking hard.
Yeah.
And then leave it with them to kind of decide
Yeah.
whether
If that's right
that's
for
going to
them.
work for them. Yeah.
hmm
So, yeah, communication. Love it. Now, what's some advice that you've been given that kind of really stuck with you?
Advice. Ooh, I've gotten so much advice. Let's see what always sticks out for me. Always work at a level of excellence. It was one of the first things Camille told me. So that's
Mm-hmm.
in the back of my head. Don't take things personal.
Mm-hmm.
Is one that always sticks with me. Although I will tell you, sometimes that changes for me.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, it's kind of hard sometimes to not take some
yeah,
things personally, but,
especially if there's decisions or something that is where it affects you personally, right?
yeah.
So that's why, like, sometimes that does not always.
Yeah, but that's a really good one to think about. Like when you were talking before about somebody coming in and kind of adjusting your work, that is not a personal thing.
Yeah.
That is that stylist needing that wig to match, and by them doing it or letting you know that it needs to change, they're helping
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's not an assault against your work at
No.
all.
No.
And
It's
so just never take it personally, because it's just what needs to be done
it's just
to,
what needs to be done. I really wish
yeah.
people would think that,
Yeah.
like I promise, because, there's conversations that happen, whether it's with the actor or the producer, the director, where, and, the department head, like sometimes I can't explain to you why. I just need you to do it like this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's like, just take yourself out of it. You're here for a job.
Mm-hmm.
Just get the job done,
Yeah.
Other advice that has been given to me, I wish I could remember who told me this. Learn 4 to 5 hairstyles of each time period, so
Mm-hmm.
that when you're day playing or wherever you go, you can rotate these hairstyles.
Nice.
And everybody don't look the same.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Um,
I like that.
I was also told, learn everything you can about wigs,
Mm-hmm.
especially for our business. And I still don't
Oh yeah.
believe I know everything. And
Oh, you never will. There's too much. I never will. It's constantly
it's,
learning.
yeah, always learning, evolving. And also, that's also advice right there. Never stop learning. Always be teachable, because things always evolve, and someone is coming up with a quicker, shorter, or, whatever way to do something. Just always be open to learning
Yeah,
everything possible.
absolutely.
And never stop taking classes.
Yeah.
And that goes with, never stop learning, but always take classes. Like, try to, and I've been guilty of this, where you've been just so busy, where there was a year where you just did not take any classes, and I'm like, dang, what did I learn this year?
Mm.
So to
I mean, I'm sure you learn stuff on like within those jobs, though. Like you're always
absolutely,
picking up bits and pieces from
yeah,
people that you're working with, or just you trying to figure stuff out and
something out.
troubleshooting. And
Yes,
yeah.
I think the one that just sticks out to me is what I was telling you earlier about Jen Bell, and
Mm.
constructing, learning to construct hairstyles in a simplified way, where one, you could teach it, but also it helps you to break it down and put it back together.
Yeah.
Um,
I tend to work like that. I always look at my hairstyles as puzzles.
mhm,
And when I've had to do something, a change on the fly,
mhm,
and I'm needing to do it quickly, and I'm always looking at it going, fuck, how am I going to replicate this? God damn it. Like,
yeah,
because I normally take a little minute to figure out my puzzle
yeah,
pieces before doing it.
yeah,
But when you're like slammed with time and you just have to whip it up,
yeah,
then I look at it, I'm like, oh man. And then I have to try and break it down
yeah.
backwards to
Mhm.
be like, oh, okay, how am I going to
I do this.
redo that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I try for that to not limit what I might create,
Mhm.
but sometimes it is just like, how do I make that puzzle like to
Yeah.
be workable, like day after day, like month after month,
Yeah.
and it not start looking like it's too,
Construct it.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's quite a little mind dance, I think. But I'm always looking at like a puzzle. It's
Yeah.
just like I got my puzzle pieces that go together a certain way,
Yeah.
and that's how I can redo it, or know, yeah, as you say about
Mhm.
how you can take it apart and put it into something else, or
Yes.
yeah, because you
Yeah.
just got to think about all those changes that you've got to do, and like, oh man, how am I going to get
Right.
that into that? Like, oh god.
Yeah, it can be a little challenging, but that was a piece that definitely stuck out to me. But yeah, just make time. Or what I did this year, just a couple weeks ago, really was, okay, what did I learn this year?
Mm-hmm.
Like, really asking myself, or what is it that I wanted to learn that I did not learn? And I'm saying this
Mm.
in a sense of like hairstyles, or I follow a few people that give classes, and I'm like, I want to do that. I want to take that class. And I think there's like an Allie. Oh, I need to look it up real quick. It's Allie something does these
Mm.
amazing like hairstyling classes, and it kind of reminds me of the Sharon Blaine classes.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I want to do one of those one day. But the
Mm-hmm.
tricky part for us is we don't never really know where we're going to be.
No, the
Month,
timing. Yeah,
you
it's
know.
tricky.
So that's what gets tricky for me. But I
Mm.
definitely say, okay, next year I am going to take there's two classes I've been wanting to take, and I'm like, I'm going to do it, and whatever job comes up, like the person just has to know Marvin's going
Yeah.
to be over here for a week, okay? Because I
Yeah.
need to do this, and because I've seen throughout my life how one piece leads to another, right?
Mm.
Me wanting to go, like the desire that's in me to go and learn these specific two classes just tells me that
Mm-hmm.
that is in my future, whether it's
Right.
a feature or a show, right? And I need to know there's something in there
Mm.
that I need to know and learn because
Yeah.
it's going to be put to use at some point, right? So
That's awesome.
yeah, take classes, man. Make the time to do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, let's actually just chat about classes
Okay.
that you offer.
Ah, textured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So AM textured. What is it? AM or AM? No, AM.
We go back and forth. Like it's
Okay.
well, we settled on am because it's kind of like I am,
Mm-hmm.
like I am textured, and so we thought that was really dope from the initials of our name. So it's am
Yeah.
textured, and we offer a texture 101 and a braid 101 class, and it's
And who's we?
we, Amber Hamilton and I,
Mm-hmm.
Marva Stokes. We're am textured.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh, I love her. We offer those two classes. It's the Texture 101 is just the basics to how you care, maintain, and style textured hair.
Mm-hmm.
So just a wealth of knowledge of what we've come to know over the years, or even our lifetime, I should say, since we have textured hair.
Yeah.
We teach that. We don't hold back, gatekeep nothing in those
Mm-hmm.
classes. From the products that we use to the tools that we use, to even hairstyles and even just some of the things that we do personally ourselves on our actors on shows and movies. And
Mm-hmm.
then the braid 101, we teach how to do, a single three-strand braid. We go into how to add hair to do
Mm-hmm.
a box braid, how to do a knotless braid. What is it? We can go into like cornrowing, and how you can do that for your foundations for installs, for wigs, products, that we use, what our kit looks like when we go to do, an actress or actor, whether it's, for a show or outside of a show. Because we've
Mm.
gotten a lot of clients that way as well. So we show what our kit looks like, what we take with us, what we use, and so it's been great. We did two classes this year,
Mm-hmm.
in early January and February, and we were going to do. I think we had a class scheduled for June, but we were both still on shows.
Mm.
So the what we have learned is it's hard to teach a class when you are on a show full time because
Yeah.
it's the energy, right? And you want to be 100% for those who have spent their money to take these classes. It's the
Mm.
energy that's needed to do that, and then to also go back to your job and to be 100, there. It was the class in February that we did, and granted, people thought it was amazing, it was great, and we're like, yeah, but we saw for ourselves, like either where we forgot to say something, or did we do? And we're like, oh no, we didn't. So we're constantly critiquing ourselves and wanting to provide better classes. We just know that we have to do that when we are like coming off of a show and we have some downtime,
Yeah.
that would be best,
Yeah.
to do it so that we're giving 110% of ourselves to these individuals. Um,
Yeah.
and
I understand that completely.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what we experienced this year. Um,
Mm.
and we've started out doing 2-day classes. So we are gearing up to offer a 1-day class in
Mm.
January of next year and see how that goes for us as far as how we feel. Like if we do it on a Saturday or Sunday, and if we can, like how's that Friday for us versus how that Monday morning is, for us.
Yeah.
But we're still here. We're still offering classes, and yeah, we're excited. It's been a
Yeah.
great journey thus far.
Yeah. It's pretty exciting. And I totally understand that. Yeah. Because when I do my wig workshops, it's normally when I'm not on a job.
Got it.
And when I'm doing them, I'm looking at my students and knowing that they just worked Friday and that they're going to work on Monday. And I'm just like, oh, guys, because those 2-day workshops they're packed
Yeah,
and they don't stop. And it's like so then it feels like they've just worked 7 days and they're about to go into
yeah,
another 5 days.
yeah,
So I know it's a lot
yeah.
for them. And uh, I don't know, you just kind of, they really want to be there
Absolutely.
because they've put themselves in this fucking crazy position.
Yeah.
And
You gotta
I just know that I have to have the energy to kind of just
Mhm.
help keep them going. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'll put a link in the show notes to your guys' website as well, so people can go and see
Okay.
more of all the information and bits and pieces and how pretty the website is. I love it.
Yeah.
And what kind of project have you not worked on that you would like to?
I just have not worked on, I still want to do a heavy duty like action because
Oh yeah.
I love action movies. Like that's
Oh.
before even getting into this business, I would watch movies with my dad. So because he's always
Mm-hmm.
been like a movie buff. Um, so I'm definitely the ones that, will watch like the Shawshank Redemption and like just very super action movies. And I also really want to do a period movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking like medieval kind of stuff, or I love the hair on Mary Queen of Scots, Bridgerton.
Mm.
Like just girl, how intricate that hair is. I'm like, I want to do that. So
Yeah,
yeah, those are
that would be
two
cool.
two things that I still it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And what film did you watch and remember thinking, holy shit, the makeup or hair, well, probably hair, but just the whole hair and makeup look is incredible.
Um, for me, Mary Queen of Scots was that.
Yeah.
Um, especially for hair.
Mm.
For makeup, the Penguin,
Oh, yeah.
girl.
So that Batman film with, or do we, which penguin are you
The
talking about? You're talking about
the one that just came out.
yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
comedy, yeah. Because I watched. Did I watch the first episode? I did, but then I also watched I think it was on Instagram where I saw like the transformation,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm always amazed by stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
I mean, it's
girl,
impressive.
it's
Yeah.
just even sitting back and, but even I like watching stuff like that. What was the one with Gary Oldman? Um,
Oh, where he played
where he-
Churchill?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
I can't remember what it's called.
Just
Darkest Hour, I think.
just watching that, I thought was amazing. What was the other one that I thought that was amazing too? I mean, I love Meryl Streep, but the Iron Lady, it was
Oh
like
yeah.
it's years ago, but just stuff like that. I don't even I know the stories because I love watching stuff like that, but I just be
Mm,
sit back and I'm, girl, one of these where I just think that's so amazing.
yeah. No, it's
So,
pretty cool.
yeah, like I want to do stuff like that too, to be a part
Yeah.
of an amazing, like where you can take someone, I mean, who they are, but they're going to play this person. I mean, it's just a full fucking transformation where you be like, God damn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to be part of a team like that one day.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
And what one tool or product would you never want to be without?
I never want to be without. What's the name of that blue comb that got the teasing? The You know him.
Like it's got the metal forks at the end of it, and then
Yeah.
yeah.
I always have to have one of those.
I don't know what those are called.
I don't know what they're called too. I think somebody said their father in the union or something, and they created that comb. Is
Oh,
that
really?
true?
I don't know.
I read something like that. The hairstylist, I think, was a father. It was a guy who created that comb. But either way, girl, when I tell you I go nuts if I can't find,
Yeah.
like I'm in my set bag and I'm like, where? Like to the point where I have 2 and 3 in there because so
Yeah, I was going to say you should be buying a box of those things,
yeah,
but
yeah,
they're
yeah.
just everywhere.
Yeah, it's just one of those, like, I can't think of who I worked with, and all they had was a bobby, like a hairpin, and they'll just do their last looks with like, if you can't do it with a bobby pin or a hairpin, I'm like, and now I feel like that's how I am with this comb.
Mm-hmm.
I need this comb to go in there, and especially when you're dealing with hairstyles because I know that my hairstyles can be too constructed sometimes, that I need to go in there and create some air pockets, so it looks real. It looks like that person did their hair and not was crafted,
Mm-hmm.
And Jen Bell was also the one to explain that to me too, just to kind of give bits of realism. And you can go in there and do it with your fingers, but you can also, I've been doing it with this particular comb.
Yeah.
So I always need that comb with me. Product, you know how I feel about Unite.
It's a love affair.
Husband, you know how I feel about it.
It's the only leave-in conditioner I use on my wigs too.
Yeah. That's for sure has been my go-to for years. So that and that blue comb. Put a picture of it in there, be like this.
Yeah,
That's blue comb right here. And what I need. So yeah.
That's awesome. And who would you like to hear on the podcast?
Galaxy.
That would be fun, actually. Yep.
Yeah, right. That would be funny. She got some stories. She's also a wealth of knowledge. I've learned a lot from the times that I've worked with her, but we've also had some very great times together. So yeah, I think she would be a fun person.
Yeah, I've only done one job with her, but I thoroughly enjoyed working here with her. She's fun.
She is amazing. So yeah, I would love to see Galaxy on your show.
I love that. And before we wrap it up, are you ready for a quick fire round of questions in 30 seconds?
Okay, all right.
She's like, oh, I gotta sit up.
Right. What are we talking about? What are we doing?
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Would you rather work in rain or wind?
Rain.
Favorite period?
40s.
If you won big in lotto, would you keep working?
Hell no.
Where in the world would you love to work?
Australia.
This is a question. Like, I think Australia.
Girl, but then
it's a good place to work, lady. It's a good place to work.
I say that because it's on my list, but then when I see these videos on Instagram with these spiders and these animals and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know.
I tell you what, I've done a job in Australia and I didn't see any of those things. So, yeah, I think it depends where in Australia. But if you're in the middle of the outback, then there might be, they've got crocodiles. Everything wants to kill you there. Like,
I'm like, but yeah.
But it's an incredible country. They have rainforests through to deserts, through to amazing beaches. So it's worth a visit. I love that. Well, Marva, I'm so stoked that we have gone from Craigslist to everything through to this right now. That makes me really happy.
Yeah,
so thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I thoroughly enjoyed it today.